Hi, and welcome to the Reading and Writing Life. I'm Amanda, and this is my weekly wrap-up. First, we're going to talk about a quick book haul that I got from a Goodwill store here in town. I'm just going to hold all of these up, see if I can get them all on here. This is books 2 through 9 of the Dresden Files. I have never read any of these, so I really hope that I like them. They're not, I really feel like I probably will like them. They're definitely my kind of book, so I'm not super concerned with it, but I hope so. And they were like $1. And then I also got the first 2 books in this series. This is the Codex Alera, I guess is how you say it. Also by Jim Butcher, same guy. So I guess somebody got rid of all of their Jim Butcher books, which is fine with me because I got them all from Goodwill. So I gotta put them to the side. Okay, that's all the announcement. I have some more book hauls coming because there have been really good sales. There was a really good sale on Book Outlet. So I got all kinds of books for like $1. And I am on a book buying ban to buy new books. But as we've talked about before, I'm trying to get a bookshelf to go right over there. I can't do it the right direction. Over there. I'm trying to get a bookshelf to go over there, and I want to have books to go on my bookshelf, and I just didn't have that many books. I've got them all over here now where they're not on camera because they're all just piled up, which I'll show you when I get the bookshelf and I do that list. Anyway, it doesn't matter. I have more book hauls coming up as I have more books on sale that are coming. Okay, let's talk about new subscribers. I want to say thank you to Pam H., Jenny Bruck, and Rachel Ann. I am so excited to have new subscribers and new people to discuss all the books that I'm reading and the books that you're reading and any questions that you have. I just love to talk about books. So thank you for subscribing. Now let's talk about the books I finished. I finished 6 books this week. 1 nonfiction book. It was The Heartbeat of Wounded Knee. Which way am I going to go? I'll go this way. The Heartbeat of Wounded Knee was so good. It's a nonfiction book, and it says that it is from 1890 to present day Native history, a history of Native Americans. But it said 1890 because that's when Wounded Knee happened, the battle, the massacre, whatever you want to call it, at Wounded Knee. That's when it happened, was in 1890, but this history actually goes back to pre-Columbus times, and so it was so good. He went around the United States to the different tribal groups that were there, the different kind of traditions that they had, and the way of life that they had, and just talked about that, like how different they were in the same way as also how similar they were at the same time, also how similar they were. And just when I finished this book, and it goes all the way up to present day. He talks about his family members and how they live their lives now. He talks about how he lives his life now. And I just usually with history books that focus on a marginalized part of society that just focuses on the history part, I'm left feeling discouraged and devastated, like the European people who came over here just did horrible things in the name of expansion and in the name of God sometimes and in the name of might makes right. And this book did not do that. It did that, of course, at the beginning, talking about that history. That's exactly how I felt and how somebody should feel reading it. They should feel like this is not right. These people were manipulated and the manipulators knew what they were doing. None of it was accidental. None of it was like, oh, they had really good intentions. No, they didn't. But anyway, the end of this book left me with so much hope. Like, it's just hopeful for the future. He talks about how, like I said, his family members and the people that he knows, how they're thriving and how they're still continuing to do the things that they want to do in the midst of all the struggles that are still going on for anybody who lives on a reservation, for anybody that's part of that whole system, and how it never was fixed or any of it made right, and how they're still surviving and thriving. And like I said, it was just a very hopeful book, and I just felt really good when I finished reading it. It was such a good book. Okay, I read one mystery, and I didn't intend to read it. I have not talked about this at all in any of my videos because I didn't intend to read it. I got a NetGalley account without really knowing a lot about it, except I knew that I shouldn't request a lot of books because the very day that I got my account, somebody said, I requested a ton of books because I didn't think I would be approved, and now I have like 7 books. And so I was like, okay, I don't want to do that. So I requested 3 books. One of them, this mystery book, was the second book in a series, and I've already read the first book. And so I thought, okay, great. Like, I liked the first book. It was a cute little cozy mystery with a little fantasy twist in there. And so I thought, well, I'd really like to read the second book. So I put that on there, and I put a couple of others, and I got approved for all 3 of them. And then somebody said, I always check the due dates before I request a book because I don't want to have to read it too fast or too far out because then I'll forget. And I was like, oh, there are due dates? So I had to go back to NetGalley, and I had to look at the books. And the second book in the series, it's called, let me say it before I forget, A Hex for Danger by Esme Addison. And I thought, oh no, I don't want to forget this. I didn't say The Heartbeat of Wounded Knee is by David Troyer. I'm pretty sure that's how you say his name. I heard them say his name on the audio version, and so I'm hoping that that's how you pronounce it. It wasn't the author saying his own name, so I'm just hoping that that's right. So I got it figured out, except A Hex for Danger was due on the 15th of this month, and just a couple of days ago, but I was like, oh no, I have not even started reading this book. And so also on NetGalley, you can get approved for audio versions of the books or ebook versions. And so this one happened to be the audio version, which was great because I can do audio a lot faster than I can do ebooks just because I have more time to listen than I do to sit down and read. So I put it in the weekend I got it. I was like, okay, I got to start this book. And I read it in just a couple of days because it's so cute. And it still follows the same character from the first one. She lost her mom when she was a little girl, and her mom is originally from this town. It's called something Bay. I've forgotten the name of the bay. But her mom died there when she was really young, and so her dad just never took her back there, and she still has family members there. And in the first book, at the very beginning, her dad's already passed away, and she's moved back. Brighton Bay? Did I just make that up? I don't know. She's moved back to this town, and she goes to work for her aunt at an apothecary shop, and they make teas and bath bombs and all kinds of stuff like that. So there, like I said, is a little fantasy twist in there that I'm not going to give away from the first book, but the second book is just a continuation, more of that. I think that there's a really well done love triangle that I generally hate them, and I think that the writer's doing a really good job with this one, and I don't feel icky about it, and I don't feel angst about it. So that's why I think it's really well done, because I don't want to be all up in my feelings about a stupid love triangle. So anyway, I thought that it was really well done in the middle of this mystery. I was a little frustrated because this woman just works in an apothecary, but she goes around doing investigating on her own. And at some point I want to be the police should just arrest you. You are in their way. But she's the main character of the book, so we need her to do that, or we wouldn't have a story. So I will allow it. And I'm definitely going to keep reading the other books as they come out in this series. Maybe on NetGalley, who knows? Okay, I read 3 fantasy books, 2, and I think they were all 3 young adult. So the first one was A Court of Honey and Ash. This is the group read book for the Indie Accords Readathon. So I've mentioned it before. We're trying to read books by indie authors, and this is by 2 authors, Shannon Meyer and Kelly St. Clair. This says that it's going to be a Honey and Ice trilogy, and this is book 1. It just came out at the beginning of July, and on the 6th or something like that. And so I had to wait until it came out, and then I read it, I think, the day after it came out. It took a couple of days to read. It was a really quick read. It's not a difficult magic system to understand. I liked the characters. I felt like I wanted more, and I guess that's the point. Like, I wanted to keep going and find out more of the story and more of their journey. But this book throws you in right on the first page. You are in the middle of a final test of training that our main character has been doing for 8 years, and she's been in a different realm for 8 years. And so her regular realm where she's lived, it's only 4 years have passed. And so she's 8 years older. She's 24 because she went when she was 16, although you're supposed to go when you're 18. But her mentor, trainer person said that she was ready to go at 16. So she left at 16. She's back now and she's 24. She's from a lower caste in their society, and her best friend is also from the same caste as she is. I really liked her best friend. I thought that she was super cute. Our main character, like I said, she's from a lower caste because what nobody knows is that her father is quite high up in the court. That's all I'll say about it. There is some assassinations that take place, some things happen, and she decides that she's got to run away to clear her name or to figure out what's going on. And so she runs away. There is a boy from her childhood who has always been older than her, which he still is, but now she's closer in age because of the 8-year, 4-year thing. And so he's tracking her down, and her best friend has been like, you can't run away without me. So her best friend is with her. They meet up with a band of people who are on the outside, and it's just, she finds out the lies that have been told to her as a kid, and I thought that it was good, and I definitely am ready for what comes next and to read the next book. And I don't think we have to wait very long. I think they have it ready. It's definitely not a year away. It might just be a few months, but I will read it when it comes out. The second fantasy book that I read was Alana, The First Adventure. And when I got all these books at the thrift store or at the Goodwill the other day, they had the Alana, The First Adventure, and I was like, should I get it in physical form? I decided not to because I had already read it, and I don't generally reread books, so I'm probably not going to reread it. This is part of my Tamara Pierce read-through, where she's one of my author challenge read-throughs, and so I am reading all of her catalog, and this is the first book. This book was so good. I cannot believe it was written in the 90s and I didn't know anything about this. Alana is a twin with Tom, and Alana and Tom are being sent away to go study. Alana is being sent to a convent, and Tom is being sent to learn how to be a knight. And neither one of them want to go where they're going. Tom wants to go learn magic, which his dad is like, no, we don't practice magic. We don't do that. And Alana wants to go be a knight. She's like, I want to fight, and I want to shoot, and I want to ride horses. And so they switch places. they hatch this plan. Of course, it's Alana's idea. At the very beginning, they convince their guards, not really guards, one of them is like their nursemaid, and the other one is supposed to be he was supposed to go with Tom and help him learn how to be a knight. So now he's going with Alana, who is now Alan, and that they switch places. Their dad is kind of absentee, doing his own thing. He doesn't really pay much attention to them, and so they can easily switch places and just send letters. I mean, we're talking about medieval time frame here. I mean, it's in a fantasy world, there's magic, but it's set in what we would think as medieval times. And so it was just so fun. Alana learns to do things on her own, how much stronger she is than she thought she was. And all of this is totally from Alana's point of view, so we don't really know what's happening with Tom. She gets a couple of letters smuggled in from him, and he seems to be doing well and liking everything that he's doing, but we're really with Alana. And I'm so excited for where we go next. She's growing and having to hide things because she wants to continue to be Alan, but she is having these other problems. And then also she gets really sick at one point and she has to kind of confess to people. She's met some really good friends. I love her friend group around her. It's just really good, and good in a way that the bad thing is not really going to happen. Like in some fantasy books, especially adult fantasy books, people somebody will get sick, one of the main characters, and you're like, they're probably going to die. And then they do. Well, not in this. Like in this, you just feel like the good things are going to happen. Like this is written, I wouldn't say really middle grade. Well, I guess it is middle grade probably. And it's just so good. And I am so ready to keep going. Everybody told me that I would love her writing the Alana stories, especially once I started. And they are absolutely right. I love it. Okay, my last fantasy book that I read is The Coldest Girl in Cold Town by Holly Black. And I didn't know what to expect about this. I saw somebody do a review on it, which is how it got added to my list to begin with. But I didn't know what to expect. I think I thought that it was vampires. So anyway, we live in a world where vampires are real. Vampirism is easily catchable. It's almost like you just have to be infected a little bit. Like we're not talking about draining you and all that kinds of stuff. None of that has to happen. Just bit by teeth is all it takes. So, however, there is a way to not turn into a vampire. There's a set way to do it and then a way to not do it. And so our main character starts out that she's been at a party and she's somehow fallen asleep in a bathtub because apparently she either had too much to drink or somebody slipped her something. We don't really know, but she wakes up in a bathtub. Everybody at the party is dead. They've all been attacked by vampires. And that's very unusual because they have these places called cold towns spread out throughout the country, or the world, I guess. And they're places that vampires kind of get locked in, and they can live there. Humans can go in there, but you can't come out unless you have a little chip and you can prove that you're not infected, which, like I said, they can easily test that. But this girl has already lost her mother to being bitten, and it's just her and her little sister and her dad. And another side note, there are a ton of teenagers who want to become immortal, and so they keep trying to get into cold towns to try to get infected. But a lot of the vampires in the cold towns are like, we're not infecting you. Like, we will use you to drink from you, but we're not going to let you do the final process to actually turn into a vampire. And so it's just a whole situation that seems to revolve around a ton of teenagers just trying to do things that they think are going to be the right thing and end up going horribly wrong. And our main character kind of feels like she's just trapped in the middle of this. She ends up having to go to a cold town. You're supposed to turn yourself into a cold town if you have been infected and wait out the period, because then you start craving blood. And if you can wait out the period that you're craving blood, then the infection goes away and you can get out. Like, you can not be a vampire. So You're supposed to do that, but a whole thing happens on their way to the cold town, and I don't want to spoil everything by saying all of that. So I thought that it was okay. I thought that it was good. I think I even gave it 4 stars. I really liked the premise of it. And I really liked the world, the way it was set up, and the way the change came on everybody. I thought that was really cool. So this is getting really long though, so I'm going to stop right there and do my one last book, which is a horror book called, where is it? The Stand. I finally finished it. 1,153 pages. This might be the longest book I've ever read. I read a 900 and something page book last month, and I have read a 1,000-page book because I read Brandon Sanderson's Mistborn, so I know one of those was 1,000 pages, but I think this might be the biggest one. Also, I think it might be my favorite book ever. Isn't that weird? I loved this book. What I learned about myself from reading this book. Number 1, I am character driven. If you give me good characters, I will read 1,100 pages about those characters. And you know what? There are certain characters in here that if he wanted to keep writing another 1,100 pages about them, I would have kept reading it. I am character driven. There apparently doesn't have to be much of a plot for me. If there are characters and I love them, I will read about them doing nothing. So this book is so good. I'm not going to go into details about what happens. There's a super flu. It wipes out most of the world. That's it. And this is about the survivors. That's all. It's tied in to the Dark Tower extended reading, which is why I picked it up to begin with. But oh my gosh, I'm so glad I did. I love this book. I love it. Okay. I don't give 6 stars. I've only ever given 5 stars. This might be my first 6-star book ever. It's the best. Okay. Books that I am reading right now. I'm still reading The Ones That Got Away by Stephen Graham Jones. I talked about this last week because I'm just reading one short story a day. And the last 2 days, I haven't even read one. So I've got to read it. I'm really liking them. When I read them, I just, it almost feels like it would be better to just sit down and read a bunch at a time. I have a hard time just sitting down and reading a little bit. So anyway, I'm also reading The Gamble. Oh, The Ones That Got Away is by Stephen Graham Jones. I did say The Stand was by Stephen King. I probably didn't say that, but sorry. And The Gamble is by Catherine Jacques, I think is how you say her name. I really like this book. It is a dystopian novel. It's another indie published book in the Indie Accords is where I got it, under the dystopian prompt. And I'm really coming to find that I like dystopian novels. But this book is about a girl. They all live underground because there's been a nuclear fallout on the top of the earth. And so they check the radiation levels occasionally and decide whether or not they can go up to the world or not. And they say the radiation levels are still too high to go up. And so every year they do a thing called the gamble. And everybody who's 18 years and older, they're all tattooed with a barcode number. Their number goes into the drawing for the gamble. And if you need to buy extra food, or if you get in trouble and arrested, like from the military police people, your number, instead of like being put in prison, your number just gets added in. Like they'll say, whatever crime you committed, your number goes in 50 more times. And so your number gets put in there. If you, like I said, if you need to get extra food, or if you need to do anything on credit, things, your number buys you things and it goes into the gamble pot. And so when you get to be older, I don't know what age, but her dad's age, clearly, your number goes in there twice every year on your birthday. Instead of just once, it goes in there twice. Because as you get older, those people can be in the gamble. And then every year they decide how many babies were born, how many people died, like naturally through the year, and then that number in between is how many numbers they draw. And if they draw your number, they take you to a gas chamber and kill you. So, our main character's number is not drawn, but she does feel like she needs to escape. And so that's what happens. And that's where I am. I'm right at the part where she's decided that she's going to escape. So I really like it. The chapters are pretty short. The whole book is only like 250 pages or something like that. And the chapters are like I said, they're only about 10 pages. And so it's easy for me to just sit down and read a couple of chapters. What I've started doing to try to work out the whole, I don't want to sit down for just a second and read, is I'm reading a couple of chapters of that. I'm reading one short story from Stephen Graham Jones, and then I've been reading one chapter of my new graphic novel, Chew. This is volume 1, Taster's Choice. I'm just getting into graphic novels, and this is quite possibly the weirdest thing I've ever read. But I really like it. I'm just going to read you the beginning. This main character guy right here, his name is Tony Chu, by the way. C-H-U is his last name. But the part that I need to see in here is because he is cybopathic. That means he can take a bite of an apple and get a feeling in his head about what tree it grew from, what pesticides were used on the crop, and when it was harvested. So that is what a cybopath is. And it's just really cute. It's only 5 chapters, and so I'm already on the last chapter, and so I'm definitely going to finish that today. But I got it from my library. I really liked it, and I really like it, and so I will definitely be putting the second book on hold and getting it from the library as well. That's it. That's what I'm reading. The next ones that I will start reading is The Goddess of Filth, which is also an Indie Accords book, and I'm kind of scared of it, but it's the one that's set in San Antonio, which is where we live, and so I'm excited about that one. That one's going to be on my Kindle. And then I got from my library the Kindle and audio versions of The Watsons Go to Birmingham, 1963. This is so cute. It's Christopher Paul Curtis. It is a middle grade book, like all of his are. It's the 3rd book by him that I have read, and I know I'm going to love it. It is a series of like short stories, not really stories, like essays about this 12-year-old boy kind of describing the year 1963. They live in Flint, Michigan, but apparently based on the title, they're going to be going to Birmingham. So I'm just excited to see it. I know that LeVar Burton reads the audio of it, and so I'm glad that I got it on audio and on Kindle so I can read along as LeVar Burton reads to me. So that is all. That is it. I am sorry this one was way longer than I expected it to be. I just really liked the 6 books that I read this time, especially a couple of them I loved. And so it was a great reading week. If you saw my week in review last week, it was not so great. So I'm glad this one was great. And I am excited for next week. And so I will see you back here next week for another wrap up. Thanks for watching. Bye.